is from Isaiah, 65th chapter, verses 17 through 25. The glorious new creation. For I am about to create new heavens and a new earth. The former things shall not be remembered or come to mind, but be glad and rejoice forever in what I am creating. For I am about to create Jerusalem as a joy, and its people as a delight. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and delight in my people. No more shall the sound of weeping be heard in it, or the cry of distress. No more shall there be in it an infant that lives but a few days, or an old person who does not live out a lifetime. For one who dies at 100 years will be considered a youth, and one who falls short of 100 will be considered accursed. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For like the days of the tree shall the days of my people be, and my chosen shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain or bear children for calamity, for they shall be offspring blessed by the Lord, and their dependents as well. Before they call, I will answer them. While they are yet speaking, I will hear them. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, but the serpent, its food shall be dust. They shall not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, says the Lord.
The gospel text today comes from the Gospel of Luke, the 24th chapter, beginning at the very first verse. It's Luke's understanding of the Easter day. But on the first day of the week, at early dawn, they came to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. And they found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they didn't find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly two men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He's not here. He has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners and be crucified, and on the third day rise again." Then they remembered his words. Returning from the tomb, they told all this to the 11 and to all the rest. A lot of other people there as well. Now it was Mary Magdalene and Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to be like an idle tale, and they didn't believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb, stooping and looking in, and he saw linen cloths by themselves. Then he went home, amazed at what had happened. It's the reading of God's holy word for the people of God, and God's people generally say, "Thanks be to God." Let us pray. Oh, loving God, we pause on this day, a great day in our faith, and we ponder these words. There's so much in that text, so many teachings Luke is trying to present to us. We just pray that your Spirit might open our minds and our hearts this day to ponder these words as Peter did, consider them as the 11 did, be shocked and marveled. Guide us, we pray. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Well, I have heard that possums are smart animals, but you wouldn't normally think so, because I have hardly ever seen one except the ones that are dead alongside the road. The joke goes, why did the chicken cross the road? It's to prove to the possum that it could be done. But possums, it turns out, are rather smart. They won't enter a hole if there's just one set of tracks. They know that there's something in there. But if there are two sets of tracks, the possum will go out and into that hole without any hesitation. The message of Easter: there's an additional set of tracks leading out of the tomb that no one can account for. As the story goes, long ago, first thing in the morning, some women gone to the tomb, expecting to find the remains of Jesus. Let's be honest here, the women didn't go believing in the resurrection. Fact is that they took spices along to anoint the decaying body. And that shows that they expected to find one thing: a dead body. Now, the first hint that something's wrong in this story is that there's a rolled-away stone. It's an ancient practice regarding tombs, but a stone had been rolled in front of the entrance. An area had been carved out so that stone could be rolled to cover the front entrance of the tomb. And when the women arrive, the stone has been rolled away. The women, upon entering, didn't find the body of Jesus either. Instead, they found a set of footprints leading out of the tomb. Now, the women were at a loss, stymied, even perplexed. Their quandary, though, is broken in the text by two men in clothes that appear to be gleaming. Heavenly appearances in the Bible are often bright. And the angelic appearance has frightened the women. They bow down to the ground in reverence, but the angels respond. And Luke is teaching all along, so hold on. The angels respond with a mild rebuke. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Put simply, Jesus is alive. He's not here. Then the angels ask the women to recall the promises that Jesus made when he was in Galilee. Remember how he told you, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, to be crucified, and on the third day he will rise again. The women, probably a large entourage. Luke names Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joanna. Well, they just can't keep to themselves this news, so they run back and tell the 11. The rest of the group, some of which include the disciples, are skeptics this day. And they voice their reservations that are still present today in many a conversation. Some of them thought the women were carried away by emotion, overcome by grief. They probably went to the wrong tomb. Some thought the women were hallucinating, overcome by some of the spices that they took with them. Some thought the women made up the story so as not to appear foolish. They wanted to move the story forward. And there are some today that thought that Jesus had been resuscitated, even some of the apostles, and that he walked out of the tomb on his own, the swoon theory. And then there's finally that last group that said maybe somebody stole his body. All five theories were talked about in the days of Jesus, and they're talked about today. But today I'm not going to go through each of those theological arguments and talk about God. Rather, today, I'm going to do this. I'm going to offer God to you today as a possible explanation for it all. We needn't worry that all four gospel accounts are different different. I recognize that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, eyewitnesses, can't agree on the number of women that were present. They can't agree on if there were angels there or not, the timing of the tomb's opening, or the appearance or absence of Jesus. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to argue with some who says that the story, obviously, because these four can't agree on it, lacks credibility, and credibility demands consistency, you know. I'm going against Samuel Butler, the Victorian novelist, who said these impossible discrepancies constitute a disproof in the risen Lord. See, I don't think that's the way it is at all today. I would argue quite the contrary, that the setting for the resurrection is not a courtroom. The setting is your human heart. And what you hear, what you believe. Our eyewitnesses are telling a truth too big to explain to fit into a single telling. With bold confidence today, the women encountered a tomb. They encountered angels saying, Jesus isn't here, he has been raised. And over the years, I have loved all the particular stories associated with this day of the witnesses who told the truth. I have loved Matthew for his drama of the earthquake that Mark didn't hear. I love Mark in his hurry-up attitude. I love John in the way he spent some time with Mary and her grief. The event was the resurrection. As it was promised in Scripture, it was promised by Jesus, and it was witnessed today by some women. Andy Stanley, pastor in Atlanta of a large church, describes this beginning of the church as a gloriously messy movement. It was led by men and women who were fueled not by what they believed, but by what they had seen. Those who had seen it couldn't stop talking to others who hadn't. The simple fact is, seeing it sets the church apart from every other religion in the world today. It wasn't the teachings of Jesus that sent the people to the streets. It was his resurrection and the conversations that Jesus had with people after the resurrection. Oh, I know some came to the tomb to look, to pray, and to meditate with as close a possible experience as they could get with Jesus, just like we go to the cemetery to be with loved ones that we miss. Some had come to labor to do one final act of goodwill for his body, to anoint it with spices. Some had come to linger, as Mary Magdalene did. By gosh, Jesus had transformed her life. And some stayed behind instead of going to the tomb. But after the claims of that empty tomb, the crazy notion that we all have a tendency to forget this day is that more news kept pouring in about his resurrection. A couple of men had walked with him on the road to Emmaus, is the story after Easter. Some had touched Jesus in the days following his resurrection. Some had eaten with him. Jesus had even appeared to 500 on the mountain in Galilee. 11 different appearances after the resurrection. Within a few months, thousands of people were talking about him, and Jerusalem was filling with people of the way. And in a short period of time, Christianity would replace the entire pantheon of gods, the primary belief system of the Roman Empire. Rome would fall and Christianity would flourish. Judaism would falter. But Christianity, 1/3 of the world is Christian today. Rick Warren, pastor at Saddleback Community Church in California, he'll have 50,000 at his worship services today. wrote, how did 12 peasant fishermen, tax collectors and farmers, how in the world did they multiply 12 followers of Jesus to 1 in every 3 in the world today claiming to be Christian? Warren argues it was the resurrection, and it was those eyewitness accounts. He'd go on to say the resurrection of Jesus Christ divided your calendar into AD and BC. Jesus never wrote a book, but there's more. He never wrote anything down. If there's more books about Jesus than any other subject in the world. He never composed a song, but there's more written about Jesus, sung about Jesus, bar none, than any other subject in history. He never drew any pictures, did a sculpture, but more art than any subject in history. And he never traveled more than 100 miles from where he was born, but yet you will find followers of Jesus in every nook and cranny in the world. And the reason Christianity spread is because somebody discovered some really good news. Jesus conquered death, and he appeared afterward to prove it. And those eyewitnesses told everybody about it. They couldn't help but tell everybody about it. And today, more than 2 billion people in the world will celebrate this day. And many of them simply have the desire of the Apostle Paul, like me, perhaps you. I want to know Christ and the power of his resurrection. They have a vibrant faith, purpose, meaning, and direction, a twinkle in their eye, a glimmer, if you will. And I love seeing that in people. I celebrate it. Who would have ever imagined it? But probably in that group of 2 billion today, there's a few that need a little stirring, a little bit of oomph in their passion. If you fit into that group, like me at times as well, Luke has some wonderful teachings contained in this text, this resurrection story. They're quick. The first teaching of the resurrection story is God's ways aren't our ways. Never have been, never will be. They are beyond human comprehension. This day should have a little bit of awe and mystery associated with it. God is awesome. They should subvert these ideas that God presents. Subvert what we expect. They demand the impossible. They're holy precisely because they're not of our making. This was the way that God chose to rescue the world from sin and darkness and despair and death. We can celebrate that. Luke's second teaching is just as shocking. It is said of the angels, representatives of God, why do you look for the living among the dead? Of course, the application is stunning. We've been challenged to stop hanging on or searching for or going to the dead things in our life. We've been granted new life, born again, and are encouraged to move into this new life, to find out where God is working and to join God, to stop going to the tombs where life does not exist. I don't know about you, but I'm cleaning my yard these days, and as we clean our yards in preparation for spring and haul all the debris to the side of the road, so Luke would say as well, to take your spiritual trash and put it at the roadside as well. Get on with joy. Comes through Jesus Christ and the risen Lord, and serve God with all of your heart, mind, body, and soul. Be positive, non-judgmental, as Jesus was of those apostles whom he had spent 3 years with. Be loving and kind and compassionate, and let Easter be a verb. Start doing that mission work, that risk-taking mission work. Stop playing it safe. Consider a legacy gift and help this church dream. Join a small group and go deeper with someone else. Pray for a half hour a day and see what God does in your life. Finally, Luke concludes his lesson of 3, encouraging us to remember that the gift of the empty tomb shouldn't be separate from the way we live as a Christian. We're to eat our meals with our enemies. We're to offer radical hospitality to those in need. We're to forgive the adulterer, dropping our stones by our side. We're to issue the prophetic challenge to the powerful and live like a beggar looking for food that will last. Well, those are lessons in this story too. The lessons are in this resurrection story. For Jesus, just as Jesus conquered death today, my friends, he also conquered those parts of our lives that slowly kill us. This day is a shocking one. I hope it shocks you. But it was shocking today as well, as Jesus presents us with an opportunity to let an old life go and a new life begin. Are you ready to rise? He's risen, and our response has been, he's risen indeed. Let me ask you this. Can you say, I have risen? I have risen indeed. Please stand. Let this Easter be different. Let it be joy-filled. Let God touch you. You say with me, I have risen